So we're looking at communication skills for business, and we're on learning outcome 2 today. So learning outcome 2 has 3 pass criteria. So you'll be happy to know no merit, no distinction.
Okay.
So 2.1 is evaluate formal communication systems used by organizations to communicate with customers. 2.2 is analyze the effectiveness of using social media to communicate with customers. And then 2.3 is assess the images organizations portray through their communications. And just to point it out again, and I know you'll probably get sick of me doing this, but let's go on to here. It's just that it's so extremely beneficial for when you're actually doing your work that I'm always doing this. So when you are physically carrying out your work, these sections, this will cover 2.1. This is 2.2 and this is 2.3. So it gives you a nice idea of what you'd really need to be talking about in all these sections. So here you go. So communication skills for business, learning outcome 2. Right, so first we're just going to talk about what formal communication is and what social media is in terms of business, because this is something that is showcased heavily throughout this learning outcome. So you'll probably know this anyway. Formal communication is just referring to how information actually flows officially. So it's not just you picking up a phone and making an informal phone call. It's you actually doing it in a proper defined channels and routes. So sending a letter where you need to do it, mailing documents out, sending off certificates, putting down invoices. So it's this type of communication actually follows a structure, and it's more or less a hierarchical structure. So there is like a chain of command. So it goes from top to bottom. So it'll be from, say, CAO filtering all the way down. And then social media. Now, social media actually helps businesses quite a lot. So I don't know if within your workplace now, if you've got any social media or any type of... But what I
don't understand why they don't. I really don't understand why they don't.
Do you know what? I think it really does help, doesn't it? Can I ask what sort of business you work for?
It's like, it doesn't sound very nice, but it's like chemical waste. So it's like a transfer station. There's stuff coming in and out all the time. So I have to do the admin side of it all.
Yeah, but then there's always someone that it might not be the nice thing, but it's a necessary thing, isn't it? Yeah, and it might be something that a new business or a small business needs to use. So it does help, doesn't it? Having like a Facebook page or you know, even a little advert on the internet or something that really does help.
Yeah.
So social media actually helps you to add value with your stakeholders. It helps you to communicate faster. It helps you to get a better relevance. And again, you're bringing new customers in and keeping hold of your existing customers as well. Before we go forward, are you aware of what a stakeholder is?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's basically just someone that's got an interest in the business.
Yes, well done. Yeah, fantastic. Just that when I first came across this word a few years ago, I was like, what on earth is a stakeholder? So I always make sure to ask. But yeah, 100% correct. So 2.1, evaluate formal communication systems used by organizations to communicate with customers. So again, what is formal communication? Like we just previously mentioned, it follows a predefined set of channels that are used for communications. So how are you actually physically communicating what you need to communicate? And again, it goes from top to bottom. So it funnels all the way down right from the top, so hierarchical structure, all the way down to the bottom, to the lower level employees. Some examples of this sort of flow are things like contracts, leases, real estate, any documents that are, if you're working with solicitors, maybe like an indictment or a divorce paper or a lawsuit, those type of things there. For within a business, it probably things coming from the HR department, filtering down like contracts of employment or notices of leave with those. Then you got internal communication. Now, this is quite simple. Internal communication is what actually just takes place within your business. You're not communicating with anybody else outside of your business. You're only talking to those people that are within your actual organization. So it could be you have one office or you could have 10 offices. Internal communication could be between the 10 different offices. But again, it's happening internally. You're not talking to somebody who's not employed by you. So this can be done in so many different ways: oral, written, video, audio, visual as well, formal or informal. And like we mentioned last lesson, it can be done in an upward or a downward way. We go through that again just as a recap a little bit later as well.
Okay.
Then external communication, just the opposite. This is communication that happens outwards. So you're talking to people outside your organization, like customers, competitors, press or media, or even if you're talking to the government about certain policies or contracts. So this can be things like letters or notices or phone calls. So just the norm. Really, the mode of communication is more or less the same, that you're doing it verbally or non-verbally, or you're doing letters. That more or less stays the same. It's just who you're communicating with that changes.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have upward communication, like we mentioned last week. It's where you're going from the bottom to the top, so you're communicating through different tiers. These type of organizations will most likely be quite big organizations where they'll have a 3 or a 4-tier structure, where they'll have different modes of management. So you'll have your floor workers, then you might have supervisors, then you have managers, then maybe regional managers, and then the CEO, or the people that run the company at the top. So that's, in a simple way to explain it, is how we mean a 3 or a 4-tier structure. So this type of stuff that maybe you'd want to send up to your CEO or to your regional manager would be like your performance report, your sales statistics, any feedback that you've got on a new product that has just been launched.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay on the parts that we've gone over so far? Any questions?
No, nothing. I feel like I should have questions, but I don't.
But do you know what? I'm not surprised you don't, because number one, your work, will be familiar for you because you're working. Communication is a big part of your job. Yeah. And number two, it's quite simple, really, isn't it? It's quite nice and structured, yeah.
Yeah.
Downward communication, again, another simple one. It's just from top to bottom. So it's where your CEO is pushing down notices all the way down. So you might be getting it through your senior executives to your juniors, and then all the way down to the employees. I don't like saying lower level employees because I think everybody is equal. So maybe your floor workers, I'd say. This type of communication can be upwards and downwards though as well. So it's not just fixed that you're going to be saying, oh, okay, I got some information from the CEO and that's it, I can't do anything about it. If you had your regional manager or your manager for your organization, for your office, set up some schedules, and then you realize, oh, okay, actually, I asked for this day off, or I've said that I've got an appointment at this time, I can't make it. You can push your information back up as well and say, oh, this is inconvenient for me. While you're working on it, please, can you exchange it? So it's a two-way process. Not that any managers do like changing their schedules.
No.
Then the formal communication is just like it seems. It's where you're not just talking off the cuff. You're actually having formal meetings. You might have union meetings. You might have a conference or a sales review. It's where things are being set up in a formal way, and you know that you're physically, right, everybody be here at 3 p.m. We're going to have a half an hour talk. So things like that. And then the physical communication, like written communication that you might get, are like memos or circulars. I know that when I've got a meeting, I'll get an email stating what our topics we're going to be talking about, or they'll give me some documents that I need to look at and prepare for the meeting. Informal communication is just things like where you're talking on a normal basis with your co-workers and so on. It's not rigid, it's more flowing, and you end up having more of a conversational way through here. So you're just chatting in a way. Lateral communication just takes side to side. It's where you're just talking. Just think of a straight line. Is where you're talking to your colleagues who are on the same level as yourself. So you'll be talking to all of the other people that you're in and around on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Interactive communication is a two-way process. So you're having presentations, group discussions. So it's just where you're not just sitting there and having somebody at the top of in the meeting room giving you information and you noting it down. You're actually having a proper discussion where you're really talking about things. You'll be really involved in them. Sometimes you might need a moderator to come in and, especially on certain topics, to say, right, you've had your talk, now it's your turn to go on. Mass communication is where you do it on a very large scale. So you're actually getting hold of a lot of people. The types of things that come into mind when I think of mass communication is when you're like Sainsbury's or Tesco and so on. Now Christmas is coming up. They started to put out their Christmas adverts. So trying to make them attractive, aren't they? Say, come over here. I mean, I don't celebrate Christmas, but Christmas is one of my favourite times of the year. It's just that atmosphere it comes up. You think of like blazing, I always think of like the fireplace is on, it's nice and cozy inside, cold outside. Yeah. So I think it really appeals, these type of mass communication appeals to a lot of people, whether or not they're, celebrating or interested in a particular thing. Grapevine. This is probably one of the things that I do too much of with my family members. But it's things like where you're gossiping and doing rumors and just having little information. Or did you hear about this? Did you see that there was the police standing outside? Or like my sisters-in-law like telling me, saying, "Did you know Tesco's got a sale on clothes?" I'm like, "Oh, it's word of mouth, isn't it?" Yeah. But again, this type of communication is good and it's bad. So it's got its own merits and it's got its own demerits. You can't really put down a fact. You can't really set it in stone and say that what Afsha's told me today was true. It could have just been a whole load of nonsense that I've been saying to you. But it's one of the things that goes with a pinch of salt with this. Yeah. These are just some examples of different types of communication to make it more interesting. Now, the 7 C's of effective communication. Now, effective communication, now I teach the communication unit across a lot of different courses. And within everything that I've noticed is that the C's, the 7 C's or the 6 C's in some other places, they're very focused on. And to be honest, from my time of teaching this unit, I find that it is true. Good communication sets you off in a good stead. If you can't communicate properly, it just breaks everything up, doesn't it? Yeah. So 7 C's of communication, we're going to go into those. So clarity is one of them. It's just making sure that you're giving the specific message at the specific time. So you're not giving too much, you're not giving too less, but it's nice and clear and it's appropriate. Completeness, so making sure that you give the whole communication and that it's got all of the facts in it. So you don't just give half the information and think, oh, okay, get on with it. That's it. I'm not telling you anymore. It has to be correctly done. Conciseness is making sure that you're communicating in a way that you're using the least possible words, but it's concise. So you're not... Now, I'm quite bad at this. I fluff a lot of things I want to say, and I elaborate when I probably shouldn't. Sometimes one sentence is better said than 5 or 6 sentences. Yeah. Your audience doesn't lose what is going on. Consideration. Now, this I think is one of the most important ones of this, is to take into effect who you're talking to. So if you're at work and you have a teenager that comes up to your office, you're going to speak to that teen differently compared to maybe how you speak to an adult. The same way when you're at home, you mentioned you got younger brothers, you're probably going to speak to them a lot more informally, but when you're at work with your manager, you're probably going to speak, use more formal language and be a bit more professional. So it's about adapting yourself. Concreteness is just to make sure that you're giving clear information and that it's not fuzzy, it's not faffing about, and it's not something that can be misinterpreted. Courtesy, to be courteous when you're sending the message. Give them nice, polite, especially if you're doing an email. You don't just go, hey, do this for me, and that's it. You've got to say, dear madam, whoever you're talking to. And then correctness. Again, make sure that there's no, especially if it's written communication, that there's no grammatical errors. Now, you'll probably have been in and around and seen loads of things. When we see something correct, we don't normally notice it. If you see a spelling mistake, or if you see something that's got a comma in the wrong place, or it's changed the word because of the way it's been spelt, you probably have a bit of a laugh and say, oh, they're a bit dozy. Couldn't they have checked this at the beginning? So if people notice for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So do you have any questions about the communication that we just talked about there?
I don't think so.
Brilliant. So we're going to go into 2.2. Now on here, we're going to analyze the effectiveness of using social media to communicate with customers. Now, when we're talking about organizations, they actually use social media in two ways. Number one is to communicate directly with their customers, and number two is to communicate with their target audience so that they can give them, like the consistent or relevant information.
Yeah.
Now, one thing, and I'll probably keep talking about Tesco's. I shop there too much. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's just a great tool. It's a great incentive to keep your customers. Because I know that if I go there, it might be slightly more expensive than if I shop in Asda's, but it's local to me and it's somewhere I can go in and I'll collect the points and I can put them on something else later on. So that's a great tool to keep your customers loyal to you. And then you've got all those incentives where you go into the shop and you've got club card prices. So they're really drawing that customer in, saying, come and sign up for our club card. So there's loads of little factors, adverts, Facebook ads, talk, word of mouth. Big companies use social media a lot. So we just got a couple of images on the different sectors of how social media is used, some pie charts. So these social networks, they do benefit the people that are doing the marketing. They can be quite low cost. Sometimes a company will just have one or two people being their social media representatives, where they'll be posting things on or making sure that advertising campaigns are being put through the correct channels. This is so that they can increase products and brand awareness so that it's out there. There's no point in you saying, I've got this big enormous sale going on if no one's going to hear about it. So it's just that to put it out on the channels and make sure that everyone can hear about it and it's nice and big and it's noticeable. It increases links to the websites of a brand as well. So if you're on, like, I don't know how it's happened, but on Facebook, I must have liked something, but now I'm constantly getting posts for, let me just check what they're called. They're all over the place. Money Saver. Do you know those? Yeah. So all it is like they're quite a good advertiser actually. So they're going into Sainsbury's and Tesco's and Asda's, and then you've got all the links on it, like this activity set is on for £5 at the works, and then you end up clicking on those links, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's working for you, and it's also working for the company as well. So it's really a good tool. It increases customer loyalty. Like I know that I'm going to go in, I'm going to scan my app, and I'm going to get certain points or, reduced prices. And it really does make me want to go in and spend there, even though realistically I could probably go somewhere cheaper. It's that human effect of when we think we're getting something for free, or we're getting something for a better price because it's reduced because of this. Then it increases the probability of the success of launching a new product. So we've all seen, I remember a couple of years ago, my daughter's quite sly, by the way. So do you remember those little pets that used to come in the eggs, where you'd have to rub them and give them love and they'd crack themselves out of it? They probably got a million things like that, but there was this, I remember her wanting that. And rather than just going out around and saying to us, oh, I want that, she'd go onto YouTube and have it playing in the background. There'd be so many adverts that she'd pause on. And Sorry, you broke up a little bit there.
That's something I would have done when I was younger.
Yeah. But she's one of those that won't come out right and say, I want this. My boys will, but she won't. And she ends up getting more expensive things because of this. She should be in advertising, really. So, because of what she does. But it's because that product had been launched so well, and they've sent it to all these YouTubing children where they're opening them and they're showing like, oh, look at this fantastic product, or on adverts for kiddie shows. When you're launching your product and you're launching it in the right way and even sending freebies out to influencers, that really does work. And we ended up spending, 60, 70 quid on it, and it was something that probably wouldn't have spent, but seeing her determination.
She won.
Oh, yeah, I think they always win, them three. I've got no say in what they do. So so that is how social media is used. Do you have anything you'd like to add onto here?
Do you think so? Like, say if you're writing an assignment about this, can you put real life examples like a test note? Yes,
it's always a good idea to. We'll have it in the actual assignment brief. It will tell exactly what we want to focus on, but from what I remember, we always ask you to focus it on a business or a company, or use real life examples.
Okay.
Yeah. So 2.3 is assess the images an organization can portray through their communications. Now, your organization, your business can get a good image or a bad image from their communication. So again, it can be quite effective for you, and again, it can be quite ineffective for you. Having the correct type of image over social media, or from brand awareness, or from loyalty, is really important. Now, there's a lot of companies that will work very hard to make sure that their corporate image is done well, which is why, like I said, they will actually hire people just to do this for them, and to reply back to their customers, and to manage anything that might have gone wrong. Now, a corporate image, or a organization's reputation, it really depends on what sort of activities it does, or what sort of products it's selling. Now, I remember seeing recently that there was a website. I always forget the names. I should start writing things down. There was a online seller that was selling certain brands of clothing, and they said, oh, it's one size fits all. So a lot of people bought certain items from them, and you're getting loads of like little posts on Facebook and saying, does this look like it fits me? This couldn't even fit my little 6-year-old niece or something. You know, it's like body image things on that. So having your reputation, I think when 10 years ago, managing your reputation for your business was so much easier, because not everybody had the accessibility to like Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. Now it seems like anybody can really, I could go on it now and put a video on, or put a post on it and say, look at this is terrible. What do you think you're doing on here? So it's harder to manage now. So how can you actually manage your company's reputation? How can you stay on top of it? You have to listen to your customer feedback. You need to build your employer brand. So, if you're talking about the work, so if you're talking about Disney, I mean, places like Disney have got a fantastic employer brand. You're associated with Disney World, with the movies, with the shops, and physically the shops themselves, when you walk into them, they're like magical places, aren't they?
Yeah.
Quite organized, yeah. And you can see that.
Got a lot of it down now.
Yeah, so many actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I think last I heard was the only store that they're keeping open was the one in central London.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and because we used to go to the one in Trafford Centre, and I used to get fleeced out of a lot of money with my three. But
Imagine.
So yeah.
Oh, I love it.
So I was in mixed mood. I was like, yes, it's closed, and like, no, I actually quite liked it.
Yeah.
With corporate images as well, they need to engage with the community. So you'll see a lot of, like my local Tesco's, they work with the community where I'm not sure if it's going to be the same in every Tesco, but what they've got are these charity boxes. And you can get, depending on when you spend in store, they'll give you a couple of chips, like little blue coins, yeah. And then you put them into which charity you want to vote for. When they've had their closing window, their time, whenever it is, they'll actually donate money towards that charity. Like, maybe it's clean up of an area, or maybe it's for a food bank. But that is one way to go into community outreach as well. Mm-hmm. Companies will pre-manage for the crisis as well. So what are they going to do if something goes wrong? What sort of steps do they have in place? And then they'll also focus on customer experience. If the customers are coming in and saying that, oh, we're not liking a particular thing, and it's consistently being said, they're going to want to focus on that and try and fix it. So then we go on to company ethos. So what is an ethos? An ethos is just a saying. It's something that your company lives by. Like it's their, what do you call it? It's what they're hoping to perceive. So like if I used to, my local school, where my children go to, they have the ethos that we are a caring, sharing and kind school. So that is what they're actually trying to work towards in the same sort of way. Business, yeah. And then you have organizational visions and missions. So a mission statement, it just defines what the company's business objectives are and how they're going to reach those objectives. And then the vision, it just shows what they actually desire to happen for the future. So an example of a vision statement for IKEA is to create a better everyday life for many people. And the folks at IKEA dream big. The vision-based statement mission on here could have also been one of beautiful, affordable furniture, but instead they've decided to use that, we're going to say that we're going to make everyday life better for its customers, rather than say focus on our stuff. We want to focus on people instead. It's quite holistic, that I think, that it makes you feel like, oh, they actually care about us. They're not really bothered about having us spending too much. They're really focused on their people. So it can work in your effect as well if you have an ethos or a vision that is really people-focused also. So we've got to the end without me realizing it as well. So yeah, that was, yeah. Do you have any questions on here?
No, I don't think so. No. So mission statement is their objective. So the vision statement is like for the future, yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, of what you're hoping to go towards.
I've heard of mission statement, but I don't think I've heard of vision statement before.
Yeah, I mean, mission statements are normally the norm, but the vision statements are something that a lot of companies don't really advertise as much. It's normally said internally, or we want to become a biggest financial company, or be have one of the best fiscal years. but it's not really, advertised as much, is it?
No. No,
Fantastic. I'm just going to turn this